Welcome, everyone, to Manny's Irish Sports Betting Show. We're at the Manny's Irish Pub. Location yet to be determined, but I was last week at a Irish pub, and you guys saw me there. And that was fun to do because it was louder than you know what. I couldn't even hear Rob Veno at the end. He could have said, "John, you're the ugliest handicapper in the history of the world." And I probably would have said, "Thank you, Joe D'Amico." And I guess that would have been fine. But I have Tony Mejia in the lower left-hand corner, and I have the great Rob Veno in the upper right-hand corner. And I have the Jesse Schule, who now has become my bitter rival.
Yeah.
My bitter rival. Joe D'Amico made the mistake today, and it really wasn't a mistake, but he let Jesse go first to do his breakdowns. So what do you think I did then? Took the other side.
Complete opposite.
Only on the first
game. Page out of Ronald Cabang's playbook.
Yeah, that's right. That was a good show too. Well, Ronald Cabang is even more laid back. I think he's like 5 times more laid back than Jesse Schule is.
Pretty laid back.
I think it'd be pretty hard to get Ronald. I mean, it'd be pretty hard to get Ronald pissed, I think.
Cabang's got some fire. Got him out on the basketball court. That's when I met him. He's not afraid to mix it up.
Yeah, that's good. I like guys like Andrew Wiggins.
Oh yeah.
And guess what? I have never liked. I do not like green eggs and ham or the Boston Celtics.
Well, but is that a Philadelphia thing or just in this particular series?
Just over the years since I've been born.
Oh, gotcha.
I was never a Larry Bird fan. I was too young to understand the game in the 70s. I thought Larry Bird was kind of very good, yet very dirty.
That's fair.
Well, let's start with – I was going to start with the hockey, but Carmine is going to try to come on. He's the co-host of the great Wagertalk show, the Puck Time. And they did a show earlier today for Game 1 tonight. And we'll get to that a little bit later. But Game 6 tomorrow night, Warriors up 3-2 now. They're going to Boston. And Curry was once before Game 6. He was plus 200 to win the MVP. And also the Warriors were plus 185 or 180 at that time. I made the realization that isn't it better to bet Curry to win the MVP as your bet if you like the Warriors to win the championship? Well, so far that's looking pretty decent. And I also thought that Curry had played to that point so well that he could be the second player in NBA Finals history to win the MVP on the losing team. Can you name the other player or the only player that has won the MVP award on the losing team?
I know.
I do know the answer to that. Go ahead.
I was going to give, like 1 to 5 odds to Rob. But Rob, who is it?
It should be, if I'm right, Jerry West.
That is correct.
That's what I was going to say, yes.
And when I was having this conversation earlier in the week, was his name Lou Alcindor still then, or did it switch over to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? Because he was the guy that was out, I think, right?
Yeah, that's a good question because he became Kareem on Milwaukee, but I don't remember what year. He was Lou Alcindor all through UCLA. And I think
it sounds like you guys haven't seen that series Showtime on HBO.
I watched about 5 minutes and shut it off. I couldn't take it.
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was great.
Did you really?
I thought it was great.
You have to take it with a grain of salt because they say it's fictionalized, but a lot of it is pretty entertaining. And
Magic has his own documentary on, is it Hulu?
Apple TV, I think.
Far more. Is it Apple TV? I found that way more, to my liking at least. Than,
another one's coming out on ESPN. It's called Dynasty with Jeannie Buss and all of them talking about the same subject. So the Lakers docs are flooding the market.
Mm-hmm. I would have thought when you said Dynasty, it would have been the Patriots, but I guess the Lakers are a good choice.
Yeah, we just saw 9 episodes of Tom Brady. Walked us through everything.
I haven't seen it, believe it or not.
I think it's really good, John. I'd recommend it.
A
lot of behind the scenes stuff that we don't get to see, off the football field. That I thought was interesting.
Do they show how the balls got underinflated?
They do.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, I don't know that they're telling you the truth, but they'll show you that stuff. Yeah.
I've been stuck with Madam Secretary on Netflix.
Oh boy,
that's a good one. That is a good one.
I still haven't
seen
the
actors involved, but it's a good one.
I'm out to Peaky Blinders. Anybody watch Peaky Blinders?
I started to, and then I stopped for some reason.
Me too. Started it, heard it's really good. Couldn't get into the accents and the.
It's hard to understand them, Tony. It really is.
Yeah. So in Game 6 tomorrow night, Golden State going to win it because I learned from Ralph Michaels that if you pick the winner of the game, you pretty much cover the spread. It's last 10 years in the finals. It is 72 and 0 straight up, obviously, and 62. It's 60 and 12 against the number for 95%. If you pick the winner, you also cover the spread.
Yeah.
But then how do you play it? Like if you like the Warriors, do you take the points? And if you like Boston, you play the money line?
I mean, I think the money line's got to be plus, at least minus 160, 165 by now.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you like the Warriors and you're feeling froggy, you go ahead and take the money line. The first 5 games, the spread hasn't mattered. But I'm always of the belief that I want those points. I don't want to be second guessing myself for getting greedy. But yeah, I mean, history is on the money line's favor.
Well, I'm going to welcome Carmine to the show. Hey, Carmine.
How you doing, guys?
Carm, Tony.
Sorry for running late. Tony Finn. Geez, I haven't seen that guy in years.
This is with the 6-pack here now.
So we need 3 more.
I just keep looking better every year.
You look like Alice. Alice was right in the middle of the Brady Bunch.
I'm the only one with a hat on.
He's younger than the last time I remember him. He's like Benjamin Button, man. He's getting younger with every passing day.
Yeah, Benjamin just got a court though. He's looking a little older now. After that court's not like suing your ex-wife for $10 million when she doesn't have $10. That makes no sense to me. But
well, she might someday have $10 million.
She might, but she might be smart too and never let anyone know she has $10 million. Would she?
Jesse, have you met Carmine?
I have not, but I understand that you're the hockey expert, Carmine.
Yeah, you guys got to give me a second. My contractor's knocking on the door. 1 second. I'm sorry, guys.
Okay, no problem.
Well, it just
NBA.
disappeared.
Why don't we just go around the horn? We'll start with Rob. You guys know, well, I have a 5% max bet in the NBA. I'm trying to hold on to the #1 spot at SportsMemo and follow in the footsteps of Rob Veno, who won back-to-back years at Wagertalk for NBA. And wouldn't it be cool if I did do that? Because Ronald Cabang was #1 at SportsMemo last year, and we signed a very lucrative contract to stay together on the SportsMemo TV platform for next year.
I feel like, Tone, correct me if I'm wrong, Tony Finn, are you #1 at Wagertalk this year, NBA?
I was #1 during the regular season, but I got run over by
was it Ralph?
By Ralph. Yeah, Ralph has the over, and Ralph's pretty selective. He played probably played 20% of what you and I would play during the regular season.
Right.
But congratulations to him. It would take an absolute meltdown and a bunch of alternative lines for me to catch him, probably. So we just kind of, it's one of those deals where I only had one NBA title at Wichita. I thought maybe I might have my second, but and you only get remembered for your last what's the word? You're only as good as your last putt, those kind of things. So
speaking of the U.S. Open.
Oh,
I'll contain myself.
I'll go-
contain myself.
Yeah, I'll go real quick here so we can get around the horn with
Go ahead,
everybody's thoughts
Let's
on this.
go
I'll
Rob, Jesse,
just give you one
right around.
quick thought. You got Golden State up 3-2 on the road, right? And if we just use this playoff history of Golden State, chance to clinch, 3 wins in the bag on the road against Denver, they kind of mail it in and lose. 3 wins, chance to clinch at Memphis, they totally mail it in, down by 55, get smashed in that game. Chance to clinch, 3 wins in the bag at Dallas, get beat up by Dallas. Final score is not indicative of how bad they lost. So they've had 3 instances in all 3 series, just like this one, chance to close on the road. Didn't show up for any of the 3. Now, this is a little different because if they don't show up here, they force game 7. But, you know, this recent history of them wanting to, I'm not going to say wanting to, but, you know, going back home and clinching has been pretty real in these playoffs. So if Boston comes out with any fire at all, maybe we see a little bit of I don't know. I don't want to call it lackadaisical. I don't want to say non-effort, but I just don't think Golden State has shown up in these situations whatsoever in the first 3 chances to do so. So that's just one thing, if you're backing Boston, that you would lean on amongst a couple others. But I'm going to pass it on to Jesse because I know we want to be quick here and let everybody go through what they think.
Well, I'm going to agree with Rob, but I'm also going to put my tinfoil hat on and talk conspiracy theory. And I'll be looking forward to that 9 a.m. announcement on who's going to be the starting crew chief for tomorrow. And if it's Scott Foster, I'm going to, in addition to the fact that Golden State's mailed it in their first chance to clinch, the league and the officials could play a big role here. The last game, there was some controversy. I mean, you're seeing a lot of memes on social media about a new player for the Warriors, and it's the referee, Tony Brothers. And I think that I wouldn't be surprised if the Celtics get favorable calls here, and the league would be interested in seeing a Game 7. It certainly doesn't hurt ratings.
Doesn't hurt the conspiracy theory too much either. Let's hear what Tony Mejia has to say about this.
I think it would be a big mistake for Scott Foster to be the crew chief tomorrow because everybody would point and say extender. And I think he's 13-0 in Celtics games. So Adam Silver is sidelined with COVID currently, but I don't think he's that stupid. But again, we'll see. I don't want to hear anything about Jason Tatum being the MVP, even if the Celtics score big tomorrow and then win Game 7. He's shooting 36% in the paint, which is the worst clip in a quarter century in the NBA Finals. Hasn't even attempted a dunk in this series. So I think it's got to be somebody else. We just did the NBA show on Wagertalk TV, and we talked about potentially being Jaylen Brown or Marcus Smart that needs to step up. I think Jaylen Brown will have a big game. I would fade Tatum on being the highest PRA number available right now at 41.5. Curry's at 40.5. Tatum's averaged 23, 7, and 7. So he's come close, but he's just not playing well. And I think at this point, the most impressive that the Celtics have been in this series is when he had 13 assists and everybody was making shots in the fourth quarter of Game 1. So we'll see. It's surprising to see Andrew Wiggins be the best player on either team in a Game 5 of the NBA Finals. He's now logged back-to-back double-double. So certainly he's thrown his name in the mix for MVP. But I do think if the Warriors are able to seal the deal, it's going to be Steph. And the last thing, Rob mentioned it. The Warriors are 3-3 in series clinchers. No team has ever lost 4 in a single postseason. Warriors have a shot to lose 5. So we'll have to see. Everybody obviously remembers the Warriors blowing the 3-1 lead to the Cavs in 16 to LeBron. So Steve, that's the only series that Steve Kerr has failed to win out of 6 when he's gone up 3-2. So history on the Warriors side. Celtics still have a home game and potentially a Scott Foster game. They've got a shot to reverse this 3-2 deficit, but not if Foster is the ref in Game 6, because then they'll blow it. All their advantages in one game.
Well, I have to say Tatum has made me really mad, Tony Finn,
Yeah.
because I cannot stand a player so unlike Andrew Wiggins or Jimmy Butler, who I think Wiggins kind of resembles right now. Tatum misses a shot in the paint, and what does he do? He argues with the ref. He puts his team in a 5-on-4 deficit and then walks back on defense. Walks. At least Curry, when he argues, he's running back hard on defense, still yelling at the ref. But this waving of the arms every single time he misses a shot. And by the way, I don't mean to correct you, Tony Mejia, and I don't mean to be
Yes, you do.
like Teddy or anything like that, but I think he's actually shooting 27% in the paint.
For
And you
the
know what?
no, it's in the
35%.
he's at 36, 27%. He's at 24% for the series in the fourth quarter. And I think maybe you saw second half numbers because I'm pretty sure my numbers are right.
Yep, and that's deserving of a plus 3-1 MVP favorite. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean he's
As
shrunk.
good
He's shrunk in the moment.
as good
Well,
as
I
that
think-
is,
and you guys
guys.
can correct me if I'm wrong with this, but fundamentally, you probably know the game better than me. But when you watch, I watched him in the condensed video, and when he enters the paint, his head goes down. So how in the world can he dish? When he has dished, he's dished at the top of the paint and thrown it out to the perimeter to a guy that's sometimes not even expecting the ball. And then the clock's winding down, and then that player's stuck. But when he gets deep into the paint, like halfway to the rim, his head's down, and it's been miserable. I mean, at least Ben Simmons attempted a dunk,
I could, you know what?
and he made it.
I'll let Tony expand on that, Tony Finn, when he goes. But if you've watched him since the Milwaukee series when they put that picket fence across the paint, that's been Jason Tatum. He's driving too far. He even said it himself prior to last game. I have to stop trying to get so deep into the paint and just hit mid-range shots. And then he doesn't do it anyway. Jaylen Brown has been somewhat the same, where he just decides he's going to get to the rim and puts his shoulder down and barrels people over. You wonder what these guys are thinking. They're playing right into Golden State's hands. As bad as Tatum's numbers have been, and everybody's described him, his last three games 3, 4, and 5, his PRA are 40, 41, and 41. Right on the number. So he's not missing by hardly any, even though it looks really bad. And the statistics look real bad. He's getting close to that number. If it's not Scott Foster tomorrow night, guys, the choices are Zach Zarba or James Capers. And if it's James Capers, that guy's a walking under. And 210.5 might seem way too high with James Capers behind the lead official whistle.
Yeah, we've already got the lowest total in the series for this game. Coming off
Just
Was
like
it
the
back-to-back
conference
unders?
finals. You had four totals in a row go lower, 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 lower. Tony Finn, what do you have to say about Jason Tatum? Because I feel like I dislike him as much as you dislike the MLB owners.
Well, I will say this. It's if there's a hole, if there's an Achilles for this Boston team, it's at the point. I'm a big Marcus Smart fan. I covered him when he was at Okie State as a Cowboy. And since then, he's come a long ways. Even in the early stages of his NBA career were full of hiccups and full of drama and maybe some poor decisions in front of the press, in front of his team, et cetera, et cetera. This team really, you guys have talked about the drive and dish. That's the MO of this Boston team. That's what they do. They drive the paint and find somebody open on the perimeter at the 3 line. That's really what they've done. What they haven't really been tested or what hasn't been exposed enough or talked about or maybe discussed in dialogue, serious dialogue, and that is that neither Brown nor Tatum are the best ball handlers. And when you get a pesky guy on, have you seen it all series? And that is even before they start driving, they knock the ball away. So, and when they've driven, Tatum was much better the last couple of games with his turnovers driving, but Brown probably more so than Tatum even is a less than ball handler. And when these guys go against a good defensive team, or at least a handsy, quick, smart, sharp, savvy defensive team, they there's going to be a struggle. That's happened here. If I still stand by the fact that this Boston team is head and shoulders better. They're deeper. They're more balanced than Golden State. What Golden State has used and done exactly as should be expected is that they've played smart basketball when they needed to. I thought Boston had overcome that third quarter hiccup back in game 4 when they overcame that. Game 5, they hung tough. They were tied going into the fourth quarter, down by 1, and they would have been ahead had it not been for Poole throwing up a prayer, right? It goes off the backboard. Long story short in this one is that unless someone's going to rewrite the Bible, I guess, and tell me that David could never beat Goliath, and that Goliath always wins, the best team always wins, and then you and I, all of us, are going to have to do our due diligence, obviously, and then use our best judgment assessment on which team's going to overcome pressure and the who's going to make the hard decisions in the final 6 minutes. Boston's done a poor job of that. They really have. I don't know this. It's been a kind of a weird series, guys. Don't you agree? I mean, you go from someone saying that Curry has a historic performance in Game 4 when he's basically the only one that scored. Had Wiggins not scored a little bit, he probably would have been the only one that scored. We've gone from them talking about the Curry, Clay, and Dre, but for the most part, Draymond's been invisible, guys, in this series, other than trying to play the hard guy or the brute or the enforcer and taking up a bunch of our time, with antics in front of the officials. He's really just not the same player he was. I mean, do you not agree? He's afraid he's petrified to take a jump shot. I mean, he's had open looks from 8, 10, 12 feet, and he passes them up. So, truth here, this is all about these next 2 games are going to be all about whether Boston lets Curry have his points, and they do a better job. They do a much better job of defending the glass, out rebounding Golden State. When they've out rebounded Golden State, they've won, guys. They have won. When they have less than 15 turnovers, they win. They are going to win Game 6. Whether it's because I believe that's the way it's going to be, whether I was told, or whether, as you've mentioned, the conspiracy theories, right? Where I think that the NBA would love to have a Father's Day Game 7. Don't you agree?
I'll be golfing, so they didn't ask me.
Well, they didn't ask me either, but I thought I'd throw it in.
To your point, though, Tony Finn, before I turn it over to Carmine, the volatility of the individual player performances is high.
Yeah.
But Golden State has scored a finals high of 108 and a finals low of 100. All the other games have been in between. Boston, 120 on the high end, 88 on the downside. I like backing the consistency, especially after they got all those other guys involved in the Warriors' offense, all those different combinations in the late second quarter. I give credit to Kerr for that, having the balls to put those combinations together and letting it rip. I mean, I thought that was quite good.
Yeah, I mean, how about I'll butt in here real quickly. I thought he did a great job when he pulled Draymond and gave Looney a minute.
I agree.
Remember, he gave Looney and what's Looney do last game? He gets 3 fouls in a minute and a half. And then I've had him. I said, Looney's going to get more than minutes here. I'm going to play a prop with him over, I don't know what it was, 8.5 or 9 rebounds, 9.5 rebounds. And at the 5-minute mark of the first quarter, he's going to the bench. And I said, well, that's a effing loser. Now Looney's going to be on the bench the whole game. He's going to be fighting fouls, But look at what the Boston did. And you guys, if you looked at the Nets on this, it didn't work out to the best in Game 5 for several other reasons. But they have been playing Robert Williams and Al Horford together. And that's big part of the reason this game is slowed down and the totals have come in lower. Is when Allen and Williams are on the floor together, they're plus 35, a plus 35 net, which is substantial. And that's what, and you said it. I'm not going to bet consistency, Jay. I'm not going to bet consistency. I'm not going to bet consistency. Right now, I want the team that's dynamic. I want the team that's going to score 120 and do it 2 straight games. 1 straight if it happened to be Golden State. But I agree with you. I don't think that's the team. They're going to have to keep Boston under 110 points to win. And in Boston, it's not going to happen.
To your point, John, real quick,
Yeah.
it's funny how things change so fast, right? With 7.5 to go, 2 games ago, Boston's got 91 points and they're winning by 6. And it looks like we're going back to Golden State with Boston up 3-2. And now we're sitting here talking to, or not us, but everything we read and hear is Golden State's going to wrap this thing up tomorrow because Boston has just faded. And it's your point about points scored. They had 91 with 7.5 left and wound up with 97 in that game because they decided to shoot a bunch of 22 to 27 footers that didn't fall.
Bad decisions,
And
I agree.
Bad decisions for sure. And to the inconsistency part, you take a look at your fourth quarters. In these 5 games, at least one team has scored 20 points or less in every fourth quarter. So somebody's not showing up, whether it be Boston in the fourth or Golden State in the fourth. One of these 2 teams doesn't show up in the fourth, and the one that doesn't has lost the game. So it's been kind of crazy and inconsistent, like you say.
Yeah. Carmine, welcome to the show. Thanks for attending. We're going to get to your favorite sport next, I promise, which is the U.S. Open. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. NHL Game 1 tonight.
I'm a fan of all sports, so I'm enjoying the basketball talk. I've been betting it. I usually just find out who Rob Veno's on, and I take that. So it's been a good playoffs.
Good strategy.
Gotta love Carm.
That's a good strategy. It doesn't take time either. It doesn't take hours and hours that we put into it. I like that idea.
No, but it's funny because you guys were talking about one of the only bets I made in the last game was the points total over 23.5 for Jaylen Brown, and I think he had his worst game of the series. He was tossing up bricks. They were never really in sync, but he had a terrible first half. I think he only scored like 4 points, and albeit he picked it up in the second half, he still didn't get close to. I think he finished with 18.
Yeah. Ronald Cabang on the Triple Double show this week, we talked about it quite a bit, the travel from a Pacific time zone back to the East Coast, and that being a dominant reason why Boston has played so badly at home relative to their road games. And I do think there's something to that, but I do think it's easier when you're going west to east if you're the West Coast team because you're now on the road. And you now have I think it's a commanding lead. 81% of the teams up 3-2 win the championship. These guys have already won 3 in the last 7 years. How many did Kerr win with Jordan?
3.
Yeah, so this would be 7 rings for him.
Well, yeah, but he was look at his rookie year when he left when he was the GM for Phoenix, and he left Phoenix to become the head coach. He inherited a pretty damn good team to be a rookie.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty good team. From his rookie year on, he's been pretty fortunate for what the players.
Mark Jackson left him in good shape.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
All right, so if Tatum goes over the player prop tonight of 40, what is it, 41.5, Tony Mejia?
Yep.
Just know I'm not a happy camper. I'm not going to throw anything at the TV. I've never done that, but I'm not going to be a happy camper.
All right.
And that's that. Let's move on to the hockey game. And sometimes I do this like fighting in other sports. Like, could you imagine like 2 guys on the PGA Tour, like, you stepped in my line and they start duking it out? I mean,
Bob
the ratings
Barker.
are going through the roof. I mean, that's what the LIV tournament should do. Have Greg Norman fight.
Bob Barker.
Yeah. Do you guys know what LIV stands for, by the way?
I do.
It's one of you. You should be ashamed of yourselves.
It's Roman numerals far as because it's 54, and if you birdie every hole, your score would be 54.
54 holes. Wow. There are 54 holes in the tournament. It's only a 54 hole tournament. So I knew who it was, but I wanted Carmine to answer. Right?
If par is 72, a birdie on every hole would
give 54. No, I thought it was because I thought they'd named that to 54 because they were only going to play 3 rounds as opposed to a traditional 4 rounds that they do in the PGA. Is that correct or not correct?
I understand that it's a birdie for 1 under for every hole.
Incorrect.
Well, why is it named that? Why is it named 54?
He just told you.
Is that correct? Is that correct? Is that correct? I don't believe it.
I would think that it's correct. He sounds very confident.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
And
We're going to name this because Carmine can birdie 54 straight holes.
You're going to challenge an Italian guy on Roman numerals? Come on, Tony.
No, I'm not challenging. No, he's accurate on the Roman numerals. What represents, I'm not buying, but then that's just me.
54 stands for mute sometimes too.
But that would be a good thing.
I haven't watched much of these hockey playoffs, but I was watching when the Lightning beat the Rangers at the Garden and then kicked their ass in the post-game fight. Is it good analysis to say when I turned to somebody and said, "Oh, this series is over"?
Yeah, it certainly is. You saw it with I guess leaving the arena with a fan who got cold cocked and
I saw that.
Eventually arrested after he hit a Rangers fan as well in the face, and they were able to identify him or detain him, and he's been banned, charged with 2 counts of assault, and then banned from MSG, a lifetime ban. So I just never know when they give you these lifetime bans, people can still sneak in.
Of course they can. You better believe it. Ask Oakley.
It never really works.
Coming in. Oakley's wearing an Oakley mask. When he comes in.
Didn't the fake Klay Thompson just get banned too?
Yeah.
Guy got on the court for warm-ups.
You know what he said? Did you read that quote? He said, "I don't care. I got to be an NBA player for 5 minutes."
Holy cow.
Hey, his shot didn't look bad until he did that layup.
Oh, yeah. That's true. Yeah, I agree.
All right, game one. We're going to let the resident expert lead this dialogue, and we'll just go right around the horn. I'll go second and then right around and with Tony Finn. Carmine, you take as long as you want on this, but the rest of us are going to try to keep it to 2 minutes so we can talk a little baseball and best bet round.
Yeah, listen, it's a series. I think at the beginning of the season, if you could have cherry picked 2 teams to win, to make it into the Stanley Cup Finals, you'd want the 2-time defending champions, and you'd want the team that were the preseason favorites to win the Stanley Cup, which is the Colorado Avalanche. And I talked about on Puck Time about taking different routes to this final, and you look at it, and I get it. You can only play who they put in front of you, but the West has been a much easier conference this season. It's not to take anything away from the Colorado Avalanche, who are playing fantastic, but they haven't faced a goalie of Vasilevsky's talent thus far in the playoffs. In the first round, they got Riddick. Nashville, UC Saros, their starting goalie, injured, so they got Riddick, and he was chased. They brought in Connor Ingram. He didn't fare much better. The next round, they get Binnington, who played extremely well against them in 2 games and then got injured, and they brought in Ville Husso, who just couldn't stop a beach ball at that point, and they got by them in 6. And then they get 40-year-old Mike Smith in the conference finals. And we saw what happened there. Another sweep. A little different for Tampa in the sense of, they got the Leafs in the first round, and yes, the Leafs they just have that can't get out of the first round syndrome for the last 18 or 19 years. But Campbell's still a very good goalie. Then they get Florida, who probably were lucky to get into that second round. I think Washington was a better team in the first round, but Bobrovsky's still a very good goalie. And then they get quite possibly the best goalie in the league this year, which during the regular season for sure, which is Igor Shesterkin, and a very good defensive Rangers team. And they knocked him off in 6 games. So probably a tougher route for Tampa, but it wouldn't have mattered anyways, even if they had the easier route. They've been battle tested the last couple of years. The only problem I have with Colorado is their goaltending. If this game is played 5-on-5, and you look at the 5-on-5 numbers for these 2 teams, Colorado's scored 16 goals more than they're plus 16 goals for against, 45-29, 5-on-5. Their XG numbers are 34.25 to 25.62, which is a plus 862. So the fact that they've scored 16 goals as opposed to what their actual analytical XG numbers are just shows you that they've run into some easier goalies and they're overperforming. Whether it's overperforming or just getting goalies who just aren't performing, much bigger numbers for them. And Tampa's the exact opposite: 28 goals for, 24 against, +4, 5-on-5. Their XG numbers, though, are 37.89 to 31.76, +613, which means they are winning yet underperforming to their XG numbers. And at some point, those arcs eventually cross. A team starts to cash in on their XG numbers, and they face better goalies, so that has something to do with it as well, too, because Shesterkin can steal you a game. You look at the rankings of the goalies, and Comfer, who is back from injury and slated to start tonight, is the 29th ranked goalie in the playoffs, 2.65 goals against average, which is pretty good, but minus 4.4 XG, which means he's allowed goals that he should have stopped. And therein lies the problem. At some point, if Tampa's arc continues to go up and you don't get a standout game from Comfort, he's going to need to rely on that Colorado offense to get them wins. 5-on-5, I think Tampa, while Colorado has a ton of speed, I think that Tampa is a better team 5-on-5 defensively. You don't want to give Colorado a power play. 31.1% this postseason on the power play. They were 24% during the regular season. Number 2 ranked power play in the playoffs. Tampa, number 5 as far as penalty killing in the playoffs thus far, 82.9. They've allowed 10 goals in the playoffs, but it's a big thing. The goalies could play a very big part in this one, especially if Comfort's shaky early, because he hasn't played at least in a couple of weeks, because after his injury, Francouz took over. If he's not ready to go, it sits on Jared Bednar. Does he pull him, and does he get Francouz in there, who played extremely well against the Edmonton Oilers in the last round of the playoffs? So it's a big thing as far as playing this game 5-on-5. I think the better coach in this series is John Cooper, guys, because Cooper, obviously Cup champions the last 2 years, but the changes he has made, they lost game 1 of the playoffs 5-0 to Toronto. He makes a few changes. They end up eventually winning that series in 7. Against the Rangers, they lost the first 2 games. He juggled his lines, put Cirelli on. He put Cirelli on the line of Zibanejad and Kreider, and they completely shut down that line. And the minute they shut down that line, the Rangers had nothing. They just could not manufacture any goals, and Tampa wins 4 straight. This is on the coach. This is the coach making the right decisions. He's going to match up Cirelli against McKinnon. Whether that works out or not, we don't know. In the first couple of games, Bednar has the advantage of line matching in the sense of you get the last change at home. So we'll see what he does, but it'll be interesting to see how the coaches adjust as this series progresses. If Tampa loses tonight, I really wouldn't be worried. They fell in the hole to the Rangers 2-0. They fell in the hole in the first series of the playoffs this year to the Leafs, and then we're down 3-2 and 1-2 straight to advance to the next round. So I'm not really worried about this team falling behind. They've shown a ton of grit and the veteran presence that they have on this team puts them where they are right now. Plus 150, plus 155 to win the series just seems like an attractive price right now.
I have a question for you, Carmine. If I may, they're obviously playing at altitude. They have more rest than Tampa Bay. How much of a factor do you think that weighs in on game 1 tonight? And the way I'm looking at it, it seems like game 1 is going the Avs, and then we'll have the series.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and Brian Leonard brought up that point during a Puck Time episode in the second round. He talked about the fact that St. Louis traveled to Colorado, coming off a 6-game series against the Minnesota Wild, while Colorado was rested, having swept the Nashville Predators. And they might have trouble adjusting in that first game, but he expected them to be a little bit better in that second game with the adjustment. While they lose the first game and were completely outshot, I think 51-24, I think were the shots on goal in that game. but then they win the second game of that series that send it back to St. Louis tied at 1. They played markedly better in that second game. So with that in mind, it's something that you could look for in this series. Obviously, as we stated, Tampa comes off a very tough series against the Rangers. The Rangers were super tough in this series. Even though Tampa won the last 4 games of the series, it was a tough one. There was no easy games in this series whatsoever. So that first one, Andrew and I discussed, maybe we see some goals tonight. Maybe it's a feeling out process, but I think as the series progresses, I think Tampa gets into the series, whether they're ready right out of the gate in game 1. I guess we're going to find out in that first period.
Great stuff, Carmine. It's just a pleasure listening to you break down the game in the series. I personally am on Colorado tonight, mainly for the analytics. Game 1 hosts, last 15 years are 12-3, averaging a minus 155 line, 40% ROI. If they're favored by minus 150 or more, home team's a perfect 8-0 in game 1, and they win by an average of 2.1 goals per game, which brings into the puck line situation perhaps. And I think Carmine was alluding to the fact there might be some more goals scored than expected. That over-under in that situation is 5-2-1. So that's my 2 cents into this. Let's see. Does anybody else have anything? Do you all want to just go around the table? Rob, Veno?
I got.
Listen, I want to ask, and when Jesse goes, if he wants to answer these questions too, because you 2 guys are betting hockey on a regular basis. I'm not, but I was on a show last week when the Rangers were up 2-0 in the series. And, as a regular novice question, I asked, isn't the right thing to do play Tampa Bay here down 2-0 at home? And there was a hockey guy on the show who told me the better play was under. So I proceeded to bet under the last 4 games of the series. And now, you're one of those rookie bettors who's just won 4 in a row. So now you're looking at this series. And Carm, to your point about series price, when I saw Tampa Bay plus $1.50, I thought, wow, that's insane. How do you not take Tampa Bay plus 150? But let me ask you this, because these are just random thoughts that went through my head. Vasilevsky in goal. From what I do watch Stanley Cup playoffs year in and year out because I think they're great to watch, but I don't bet them. So the goaltending to me is always the biggest deal in Stanley Cup playoffs. You could be an 8 seed with a hot goalie and go on and win a cup. It looks to me as it matches up offense versus defense here. You talked about Avalanche probably playing a weaker schedule to get here than Tampa did. Do you favor either offense or defense coming into a series like this?
I definitely favor the offense of Colorado. You've got, when that McKinnon line is out there, and you've got Cale Makar on defense as well too. Just his natural speed, and we saw it in the last round. You had one of the fastest skaters out there, and Connor McDavid coming in on him over the blue line and trying to go around him, and Makar stayed with him the whole way and poke checked him just before he got to the net. To be able to skate backwards and have that speed, it's literally like having a 4th forward out there, and this is what makes this team so dangerous. You look at the sort of like the Conn Smythe numbers for the top 4 guys in odds, and you got Makar who leads the way at plus 200, Nathan McKinnon right behind him at plus 220. Then you've got Kucherov, who really picked it up in the last couple of games of the series against the Rangers at plus 375. And then my pick, or my bet already, I released this one to clients at the beginning of the playoffs, which was Vasilevsky. He was plus 650. He's now down to plus 400. I'm in that zone, just to go off on a tangent, where, or in that area where I think I've got, other than the Polish middle, as they call it, I've got both ends covered. I released to my clients at the beginning of the season, Colorado plus 550 to win the Stanley Cup. And I have Vasilevsky plus 650 to win the Conn Smythe. If Colorado wins, I'm going to cash that ticket. If Tampa Bay wins the Stanley Cup, it is almost always the goalie, unless a player goes completely off, like a Kucherov, and scores 7 or 8 goals in the series, it likely goes to the goalie, and especially Vasilevsky. You look at him the last 2 Stanley Cup, not the playoffs, but the actual Stanley Cup finals. He is 8-3 in the Stanley Cup. He's won all 3 games off a loss. His goals against average is 1.90 in those 11 games, and his save percentage is .933. He's just been lights out. Now, if you look at the little caveat in all of that, the Dallas Stars 2 years ago, the Montreal Canadiens last year, neither one of those offenses puts fear in your hearts like the Colorado Avalanche do to you. So, yeah, it's very likely we're going to see some goals, and like I said, Colorado is going to score. Defensively, I think the Tampa Bay is much better. We saw once John Cooper made those adjustments, once he was able to match his lines up, especially in Tampa Bay, he basically took that number 1 line for the Rangers out, and they didn't get any secondary scoring. That happens a lot in the NHL. If you can take away a team's number 1 line and they don't have secondary scoring, they are in trouble. Problem with Colorado is they do have secondary scoring. So John Cooper is really going to have to wave that magic wand in this series to make it 3 in a row.
Good deal. Let me go. Yeah, I'm going to assume, Carm and Jesse, you can pick this up when you go. I'm going to assume that both of these teams are venue proof, that Tampa can win in Colorado, that Colorado can win in Tampa. I'll make that assumption because they gotten to this point. But I'll go a little bit of X's and O's and personnel here, because it was told to me back when I was on this show that Braden Point for Tampa Bay, is that his name, Braden Point?
Yeah.
He was described to me as the guy that Tampa Bay puts in front of the net for stick deflections to create goalie confusion, and he's as important a guy to that offense as there is. Didn't play the entire Ranger series. From what I saw this morning, may go game 1, may not, but definitely will go game 2. Is he a difference maker in the series?
Absolutely. They're a much better team with him in there. And I think this probably is one of the reasons why we're seeing a little bit of take back on that series price that opened up a lot higher. I think it opened up at close to minus 200, 190, 200, and plus 170 on Tampa Bay. And then the Tampa Bay money came in as it was known that Braden Point was set to return. John Cooper was very sort of aloof about it. He said, we'll see. He's back on the ice. We'll see if he makes it in game 1 or game 2. I think he'll be out there. And creating that, and this is another thing of getting back to those goalies. The one thing that I mentioned throughout the playoffs was a goalie as good as Shesterkin, you've got to get in front of him. You've got to make his life difficult. And it's what the Pittsburgh Penguins did for the most part when they chased them in those games 3 and 4 in Pittsburgh, where they scored 7 goals in each one of those games. They made life in front of them difficult. The Rangers found a way of clearing that front of the net, and Shesterkin got better as the playoffs went on. But the minute they hit Tampa Bay for game 3, all of a sudden it was Corey Perry in front of that net, screening Shesterkin. And he literally gave him fits in front of that net. And now you've got Braden Point coming as well too. You've got a couple of guys, and if Comfort isn't ready for either one of these guys, or he's not on his game, and they're getting shots on goal with these guys in front of the net, I don't know. This is one of the reasons again with the whole angle of possibly seeing some goals early on. We're gonna have to see what adjustments Colorado can make, but if Tampa can get guys in front of the net and make life a little difficult for Comfort, who hasn't played his best despite his goals against average in the playoffs, we could very well see Tampa Bay steal one of these 2 games in Colorado.
Well, I would like that, because then it means it's probably going to go 6 or 7. The betting markets seem to favor a 5-game win by the Avs. That's the lowest futures price for any of the scenarios. That's great stuff. I mean, it's just a pleasure to have you on the show and listen to what we should be doing with the NHL for sure. I've done well in the NHL, but it's all analytical Carmine. It's all numbers. It's the one sport that I don't get into the fundamentals, and I probably should if I had the time. But anyway, great stuff. Anybody want to add anything more, Jesse?
Rob's question about Braden Point and that role he plays. Carmine touched on it, that Corey Perry can play that role, and he plays it very effectively. And for people that don't know hockey very well, they might not recognize the name Corey Perry, but it was only a few years ago that he was a guy that would lead the league in scoring or be among those top 5 scorers in the league year in, year out, playing with Ryan Getzlaf in Anaheim. He's changed his role. He's more of a gritty player in his old age here, and you might remember him from last year's Stanley Cup Finals. He was a big part of Montreal's run, and I think he's extremely effective at getting in front of the goaltender and causing those same disturbances. So I think regardless of whether Point plays or not, Tampa's in good shape. I agree with everything that John said about Game 1. I don't like Tampa in Game 1. Vasilevsky he's been pretty shaky in series openers, coming off of a bit of a layoff. It seems like it takes him time to get involved in a series. Really good coming off of a loss. And as Carmine said, the goaltending situation for Colorado is not ideal. I actually think they would be better off if Kemper was still sidelined by the injury, and if they knew they had to ride Pavel Francouz, who has been outstanding against the Oilers, and he doesn't have to look behind his back at one bad game and he's going to get a hook. I think that would have been a better situation for Colorado. So they're going to ride with Darcy Kemper here in Game 1. Of course, he's never really been an elite goaltender. He's been around for a long time, most of the time as a backup. He's been good. He's been a very steady, very good goaltender. He's never been a Vezina candidate. He's not the kind of guy that's going to steal games for you. And he's the kind of guy that you could end up pulling. And if they start doing that, it's going to remind me of what happened between Montreal and Las Vegas last year when they pulled Marc-Andre Fleury, they put in Leonard. All of a sudden, neither goalie's got any confidence. Then they put Fleury back in, and it was just a disaster. And as I said, I don't think Kemper is near the quality goaltender that Marc-Andre Fleury is to begin with. So that's a bit of a bad situation. What I'm going to be cheering here for tonight is I want to see Colorado win, and I want to see what kind of odds I can get backing Tampa after they go down 1-0 in the series.
Yeah, I like it. Tony Mejia, Tony Finn, any thing to add?
Not a hockey guy. I have seen the Avalanche play, and they were impressive. Their speed was ridiculous. So I'll break my rule. Normally, I only bet on teams whose names I know. Only names I know are Kucherov and Vasilevsky, but I think the Avs win.
Really, the only thing I would throw in here is how everyone talks about the game as Carm did, breaks it down, the two teams, et cetera, et cetera. And I follow hockey, watch hockey. I don't handicap it. I don't release it. However, I just wonder if people really understand. I know Carm does what it takes to this 3 Stanley Cups in a row. This hasn't happened, I don't think, since I can remember back in a New York team back in the 80s. Yeah, in the 80s. But the physicality of this sport to win a chance, as hard as it is to win 1 Stanley Cup, to win 2 is obviously a dream for these guys and something that people will remember. But 3, just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And my hope is they do it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's and just going back to like the Jesse was talking about likely wanting to start Francouz. Like I would likely have done the same thing. You ride the hot goalie. We've seen teams in the past ride the hot goalie and it does wonders. That Edmonton team could score and he held them at bay as well in that. His XG numbers as far as goals saved above expected are right at even 0. Comfort minus 4.4. And then you look at talking about goalies who can steal you games. Vasilevsky is plus 12.70 goals above expectancy saved, which tells you, and he's number 2 in this year's playoffs, which tells you he's a goalie who literally can steal you a game. And and he's likely going to have to do it because this is a very talented Colorado team. And listen, they had troubles getting out of that second round. Colorado did the last couple of years. I think it's 3 years in a row where they couldn't get past the second round. They're here now. They've made it through 3 rounds. They're into the Cup Finals, and it takes a lot. And if you guys sometimes follow me on Twitter, you'll know that being from Toronto and not being a Leafs fan, I will egg on the Leafs fans as much as I can, including the Prez, as much as I can. I wear a different the visiting team's uniform or jersey every time I go to a Toronto game at the Scotiabank Center. All my friends are Leaf fans, and I do the same to them, John. I literally will go and watch a game like tonight, and there's like 6 or 7 of my friends, and they're all Leaf fans. I'm like, let me buy you guys the first round because you're Leaf fans, and you know that there won't be a second, and that's it. I'll buy them a round of drinks, and that's pretty much it. I enjoy the rest of the game.
That's awesome.
That's
I
a pretty
like
good
that
one.
attitude. That's pretty good.
So,
I'd be interested to know when the last time somebody won the Stanley Cup with 2 goaltenders that they used in the series. If Colorado is forced to make a change at goaltender, has anybody won the Cup in the last 20 years using 2 goaltenders? I can't remember that.
Montreal, they used a guy named Roy, and then they used a guy named Moi, too. Both of those guys helped win.
yes, he's in Montreal. He's Patrick Waugh. To the rest of us, he's Pat Roy. I get it. It's the way it is. But
and that was more than 20 years ago, too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And he's a former Colorado goalie as well.
Yeah.
So did he win? I think he won the Cup with the Avalanche. I'm not sure.
Sure did. Two cups, I believe.
Yeah. So there you go. He should be at the game tonight. I'm looking forward to it. It's the Stanley Cup. It is, and I hope it goes 7 games. It'll be like watching the Super Bowl 7 times over a 2-week period. That's how I look at it, with prop bets on every single game.
Yeah, that is fun. No question. No question at all. So, gentlemen, should we do a final round of best bets? You can pick any sport, and we'll call it a night.
Yes, sir.
Try to keep it short and sweet. I'm gonna go first because I love talking about this because I'm just a natural contrarian sometimes. I've read all of Tony Finn's books on the subject, and it's helped me immensely to do everything in moderation excessively.
Exactly.
It's worked. New York Yankees. 3rd time in the last 20 years they win 40 of their first 60 games. Actually, they won 44. That's the most in the last 20 years. None of those 3 years they were in the World Series, but it looks like this is a different type of team than those other 2. However, I play around with numbers, and I think I feel pretty good presenting this. The Yankees have outscored their opponents by 129 runs to date. The Dodgers are the only other team in Major League Baseball that have outscored their opponents by more than 100. So, guess what I'm thinking? I'm thinking if you're that damn good that you can outscore your opponents in the first 2 months of the regular season in baseball, regression has to be something to look up and see if it happens. Lo and behold, something new I didn't know. You're fading teams against an opponent that has outscored their opponents by 100 or more runs in the month of June. If the favorite is minus 160 to minus 190, regardless of location, 31 and 37 are the dogs. Now, that sounds like a losing record. Why the hell would you do that? Well, the reason is that you average 157 underdog wager, and that translates into a 18% ROI. I think that's outstanding. That, to me, you know what that is? And that's why I call these things blackjack systems. You go to the blackjack table at your local casino or, take a trip to one of the luxury places. You play 68 hands of blackjack and go 31 and 37 like this system does, and you bet $100 a hand. Conservatively, I know you guys probably bet more than that, but just $100 for the example. you would walk away losing $600. But if you stay the hell home and do this, you make an 18% ROI and a hell of a lot more money. I think that's outstanding. And guess who it is? You're fading the Yankees tonight with the Tampa Bay Rays. And Jesse and I talked about it on the Full Count show today, didn't we, Jesse? And I know Jesse likes the Rays. But we had a game where we have like 10 pieces bet. And I now forget who I have.
You have I've got the Mets anyways. You've got the Brewers.
Yeah, I have Corbin and the Brewers. Tony Finn, who do you like in that game?
I played the Mets. I don't know how Milwaukee. Listen, Milwaukee couldn't find a run if it walked up to them with no clothes on. They would.
They ranked third. They're third in home runs in Major League Baseball, and they're going against a guy that should actually hit 3 home runs tonight.
Huh?
They lost 9-10, and they're playing. Team's got the best offense in baseball.
Listen, the Mets are not very good defensively. The pen is okay, but none of those things even get tested when they can't score a run. They can't score. This team can't score.
I think Jesse was on this show too, and you. I think Mr. Finn and Mr. Veno, Mr. Mejia would all of you guys might be proud of me because when they had the 10.5 game lead over the Braves, I talked about a Wall Street technique that I used for when I worked up there, obviously, called arbitrage. And I saw the opportunity based on my models to sell the Mets, buy the Braves, buy the Phillies. Now, did I know that the Phillies were going to rip off 9 in a row? Did I know that the Braves were going to do 13 in a row? Of course not. Did my models? No. But that lead is down to 5 now. And that's going to continue to shrink, I think. And
not by the Phillies.
In the division.
Not by the damn Phillies. That's for certain. This is a team that when you can score 9 runs and lose, their bullpen is it's a mess.
They got to change
absolute.
They got to change up the order of who they bring in.
Well, that would require all new bodies, all new clones.
All right, a little digression there. I apologize. Let's go to Veno.
Okay, Ben Simmons. I say put Ben Simmons in the closer's role. How much worse can it get?
Who?
Ben Simmons.
Sir Anthony Finn.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sir Anthony Dominguez. Sir Anthony Finn.
I supported Ben Simmons immensely in the beginning of that drama, and I regret it.
Well, it's okay.
My friends will never let me forget.
Well, no.
But I'll tell you what, at least he's taken more dunks and made more dunks in the NBA playoffs than Tatum.
Yeah.
Guys, I am going to jump in with a quick NHL play because my wife is patiently waiting for me, so I've got to jet out of here. Game one.
Is that her standing behind you?
Game one. Yeah, she's sitting there with a knife. Game one, obviously, in Colorado, I'm going to go with the best player in the league, a goal scorer's prop, Nathan McKinnon, plus 125. I gave this out on Puck Time, and it's actually one of my client plays as well, too. We've hit a lot of these goal scoring props over the last couple of weeks, and obviously all plus money ones, which are always good. So big time players show up for their teams, and game one, we'll see some goals hopefully in this one, and hopefully McKinnon is part of that. Best player on the ice. I'll take him at plus 125.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Go.
Thank you for your time, Carmine. If you need to leave, go ahead.
All right. Take care, guys.
See you in Vegas, Carmine. Hopefully we got some soccer to watch.
Tell your wife I said hello.
I will. Take care. Thank you.
Let's go to Rob Veno. Let's let Rob Veno go last. We're going to go to Tony Finn next.
Why?
Tony Mejia, Jesse Schule,
Anthony
Rob
Finn.
Veno be the anchor, and then we'll end the
Anthony
show.
Finn Dominguez.
And I too just got a message that I should end the show soon so I can go to dinner with my wife. So
yes, let's
say hello to your wife for me. Give her a kiss.
Go to the no huddle.
Yeah.
Okay, you want a free play? I'll give it to you. We're going to thank a couple things. We're going to thank the fact that that we get a good number from with Detmers being on the mound tonight against the Dodgers, and we're going to thank Tony, the other Tony, the third Tony. Gosselin for throwing a nice game last night and saving a little bit of the bullpen. But I like the under tonight with a pitcher that has really been, if you look at his history, Tyler Anderson has been beat up by this Angels team in the lineup, et cetera, et cetera. But that's when he's playing for Pittsburgh, Seattle. What he's been able to accomplish in the Dodgers organization is, I don't give that Dodgers coaching staff much credit, but I do give them credit for being able to work pitchers, put them in a good position, help them understand that they should be pitching. The majority of their pitches, or the biggest percentage of their pitches, should be the ones that they're successful with. And we have all kinds of data and peripherals and information that provides that. So I'm going to play under 9 tonight with the Dodgers and the Angels. And the Angels have been pretty miserable the last 30 days. If you guys watched them, even with Trout in the lineup, even with Rendon, even when they were healthy and they had a full lineup last night and were shut out. This team is one of those teams that's never, Trout is like Boston, guys. He's supposed to lead this team. And if there's been a team that's really underperformed or been overvalued over the last half decade, it's been the Angels. So we're going to go, I'm off topic. Just play the damn under 9 runs at Chavez Arena tonight. Angels, Dodgers.
Like it. Like it a lot. Tony Mejia, what's your best bet for tonight for the show?
All right. If you want the write-up, it's at wt.buzz/TM. Went 7-0 in baseball yesterday. 0-1 today, though, and this is the beauty of baseball betting. Yesterday, I was able to avoid the Phillies bullpen by playing that first 5.
Man, I lost that game.
My money line winner, and then obviously
Just
the Phillies
shoot
bullpen
me now.
imploded. Today, I went first 5, same rationale, and they trailed 1-0 to the guy the Marlins called up as a stopgap because Pedro Lopez is
Tony Lopez
needed an extra day. And look what the Phillies do in the 9th. Come back and rescue that game. So just goes to show you with that. But my play tonight is the under in Cardinals and Pirates. And so long as Derek Shelton, the Pirates manager, finds a way to do Tony La Russa things and walk Paul Goldschmidt as often as possible, I really like that. I really like Roansy Contreras. He's one of the few bright spots on these Pirates. And then returning to the bigs tonight is Jack Flaherty. Formerly the Ace, hasn't pitched all season, but he looked great in the minors per reports and told St. Louis, hey, this is the best my shoulder has felt in years. So I'll trust him. Pirates can't hit a lick right now. Obviously, they had 26 outs before their first hit last night. And so long as Goldschmidt doesn't go crazy again, I like the first 5 under 4.5 runs. Pirates.
You know who the umpire is, T?
I did not see that. No.
Yeah, it's Dan Asagna. I liked that play too until I saw it was Asagna behind the plate, who is not my favorite.
Put an asterisk by that. I watch
right.
a lot of games on the app where they show me hot zones and where the actual pitch is, and I swear to God, the umps miss at least one pitch per at bat. Yeah. And at least 2 per inning. It's
that K zone that's on television isn't. They get graded by.
No, it's not the K zone. It's the one that they show.
Oh, the hot zone.
Huh?
The hot zone. The girls
on MLB's app and on ESPN's app, they have the same thing, and you could see where the pitch is. Sometimes they call it a ball. It's a strike. It's a ball. I mean, they've really got to get that fixed, especially for us that like to gamble on baseball. It really leads to big innings. I lost an under on Orioles Blue Jays the other day because Bradish got hosed on a call and then ends up giving up 5 runs in the 5th when it was a 2-0 game, and I looked pretty smooth going into on the first 500 there. But I digress, and I believe who goes, Jesse?
Jesse's up.
Go, Jesse.
I'm interested to hear what you guys think about this. Maybe I'm way off base, but I'm looking at the game in Wrigley today. We got the Padres that scored a dozen last night. I guess the wind was blowing out. The wind's supposed to be howling out today. The total's 11.5. And I'm looking at the pitcher for the Padres, Ryan Weathers. My apologies to his mother, but he just looks like doggy doo-doo. He hasn't started in the majors yet this season. You look at his numbers from AAA, 3-4 with a 4.29 ERA, 54 innings pitched, 52 runs, 24 walks, just 37 strikeouts. Pretty poor K to ball ratio there. Not the kind of guy you think you want to throw into the fire at Wrigley with the wind blowing out. and it makes me think that they brought this guy up just so he could get rocked, and one of their pitchers that they care about doesn't get roughed up. I mean, is he a sacrificial lamb or not? But I'm looking at the over tonight. Traditionally, when the total's sky high at Wrigley and the weather's like that, 4 of the last 5 have gone over when the total's 11 or higher. And what do you guys think of that?
Well, I mean, I wrote a free play on this. You can read my free play. At first glance, I'm going to take the Padres against a second-time starter. Basically, he pitched his debut. Now he's going to throw a second against the son of a strong-armed major league pitcher, Weathers. Here's my problem. When you do due diligence, Weathers, you got a 7.95 ERA and about a 7.23 xFIP on the farm, and he closed last season with about a 5.5. This guy pitches to contact, not really good. He's always going to be a guy who, if he's fortunate to be a long reliever, that's what he's going to do. And then you have the Cubs rookie, who actually looked pretty darn good, and his prospects are much higher than was. What's a little surprising is that the team that's lost 8 in a row, guys, is a $1.40 favorite. That's really the surprise. So, but I would be on the Cubs. I personally would be.
Yep.
I've got the over as a 2% client play, Jesse, and I'm going to stack my FanDuel lineup with Padres and Cubs. That's what and I do remember David Weathers. I didn't realize this was his kid, and he was a number 7 overall pick in 2018 because I looked at it. I said, all right, let's fade him.
Yeah, there you go.
I will also add the Padres are 0-14 in his last 14 appearances.
And I will tell you this, no team in the major leagues has less hard hits the ball with less hard contact than the Padres. You believe that? That's the truth.
But they've got Nomar Mazara in the mix now. So everything's
that's right. And
All right, let's hear Veno because my dinner's getting cold.
Everybody's dinner. It is amazing how much Randy Weathers looks like his father. I mean, he's a left-handed version of that guy. Last year he had a bunch of starts. I'm going to go to the same game Tony Finn had, and I thought when he started out, I was shaking my head like, damn, I got to give the same play as Tony, but he went a different route than I did. I'm going to try the Angels first 5 plus half a run plus 115. Minus half a run plus 115 with Detmers tonight. Detmers' last 2 starts, only 8 2/3 innings total, but they're shutout innings against the Red Sox and at Yankee Stadium. So a decent form, and he's been pretty good this season. We remember the no-hitter more than anything, but against the Dodger lineup that's only scored 2 runs max in their last 4 games, I think he can do okay for the first 5. Then Tony talked about how Tyler Anderson's been beat up by the Angels in recent history. 5 of the first 7 guys in this lineup for the Angels tonight are 14 for 22. That's 643 batting average against this guy. And if I go back, a couple of these are from 2021. And in 2021, remember, you're without Trout, you're without Rendon. The lineup the Angels put on the field was miserable to begin with, and they still lit them up. Numbers exactly from last year, guys. 2021, he wound up only getting out of 3 2/3 innings, starter both times. The ERA 29.42. If you take him back to 2020, you find he's thrown 8 2/3 against these guys. 26 base runners in 8 2/3 innings, 17 earned runs, 17.64 ERA. Nothing's good about what Tyler Anderson has done against this particular team. And his last start looked a little bit shaky. He's really not the 7-0 pitcher, or at least his history leads us to believe nothing like he's the 7-0 pitcher that he's shown so far. So I'm going to shorten it up, play at 5 innings, hope that, for Tony's sake and for my sake, the Angels can be winning 1-0 at the end of 5. And I think plus 115 is a real good price there. So we're going to take a shot with the Angel lineup against a guy that they've just battered over the course of the last 2 years.
And you are getting half a run because you said minus. It's plus.
Yeah, plus half a run, minus 115.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, plus 115.
Got it. Right.
I think it's. You go back, Tone.
It is.
Got to lay the half a run, right, Tone?
Yes.
You have to lay it and
minus,
take it. Are the Angels favored? I mean, aren't the Dodgers favored?
They are, but they're not favored on the 5-inning. I mean, they're not giving the half run in the 5-inning run line.
I'm not giving Anderson much credit in this one. I'll say this. I will say this.
I agree.
Everything Rob says is correct. It's correct. I mean, this is correct. I mean, here's the deal. Detmers, guys, take a look at his analytics, Rob, too, and you'll find that that's the guy who threw 6% changeups last year, throwing almost 30% changeups all against left-handers. And guess what? All against right-handers. And guess what? The Dodgers are loaded with right-handed hitters tonight.
Surprise, surprise.
It's funny. We saw that Dave Roberts last night. You know, he had that big meeting with his team calling out his superstars, and they got 1 run into the bottom of the 8th. So I don't know if slumps are, part of baseball. Over the course of 162 games, they just happen to be in one right now. We'll hope that they don't do much in the first 5. That's for sure. And I hope they don't do much all 9, Tone, because you got under.
Yeah. I'm comfortable with it, especially with I'm comfortable with it. I'm just So there we go. But I'm gonna go. If I hurry up, I can probably go eat Tony's dinner.
Yeah, you could.
I see it burning in the background there. So I'll just end the show here with you get over to Wagertalk. That's where you find Rob Veno, Tony Finn, Tony Mejia. SportsMemo, you find me and Jesse Schule. We're one big happy family. And every single one of the people you're looking at has records across many sports. So you're getting great value for your investment. You're investing in yourself, and you end up having these guys working for you, and you can start doing that tonight. So I highly recommend doing that. And we'll be back, I guess, probably Friday maybe for the next edition of the Manny's Irish Pub, possibly tomorrow. Just have to stay tuned. It depends on everybody's schedule. Can't go to the bar every single night, although we probably would have fun. But until then, remember the 2 things I always say: bet with your head, not over it. And what's the rest, Jesse?
All the wins be yours.
Thanks, buddy.